Hello, how are you? Today I'm going to share with you a list of foods that you should not eat raw as they are dangerous to your health. But even so, many people ignore the risks and continue to eat these foods raw, often causing long-term health problems. I'll explain more about this to you. Stay with me until the end because you won't want to miss it. If you love tips about nutrition, health, and fitness, you're going to love this channel. So go ahead and subscribe and remember to turn on the notification bell to get updates because I post new videos every day and you're going to love them. Also, check out my Healthy Recipes channel with lots of savory and sweet options. And subscribe there too. I'll leave the channel link down below in the description. If you enjoy these videos where I share more health tips, what to eat or not to eat for your health, give it a like and I'll come back and make more videos like this for you. I decided to make this video for you about foods we shouldn't eat raw because some of the foods on this list are things that some people eat almost every day. It's really crazy. There are people who don't worry about it and end up putting their health at risk. Maybe nothing has happened to them so far, but the risk of having a health problem is high. So it's important to spread this information and share this video with someone you know who eats any of these foods. Let's start the list then. The first food on our list is eggs, which should never be eaten raw. That's because raw eggs can be a source of salmonella, a bacteria that can cause serious health problems, salmonellosis, which can be associated with vomiting, fever, diarrhea. It might seem like just a stomachache, nothing serious, but for more sensitive people or those with more delicate health conditions who are going through a period of low immunity, or for children, pregnant women, and the elderly, it can even be fatal, so it's complicated. Be careful! Many people still have the habit of putting raw eggs in their shakes. There are people who still do this, thinking they'll gain more muscle mass. They take the egg white and add it to their shake to drink. In this way, the absorption of the protein is actually even worse. I talk more about this in my video about eating eggs every day. I have some great videos here discussing more about the other foods I'm going to mention, and I'll leave them below as a compliment for you. So, consuming raw eggs like this can be really tricky. And be careful as well, once again, if you are in a high-risk group, such as people with compromised immunity, pregnant women, the elderly, and children, to avoid eating very runny egg yolks. This issue of egg yolks is controversial in the scientific community because some people completely advise against it, while others say that if the egg is fresh, of good quality, and from a reliable source, there's no problem in consuming it, since you at least reach a minimum cooking temperature that would inactivate salmonella. If you have any doubts about whether it's suitable for you or not, or if you have any health issues, the best thing is always to err on the side of caution and always consume fully cooked eggs. And remember, if you have any pre-existing health problems, this video is for informational purposes only. If you have any questions, consult your nutritionist or your doctor in your city. Be careful also with the consumption of raw or undercooked meat. This is because raw or undercooked meat can contain viruses, bacteria, and even parasites, depending on the hygiene of the place where you ate it. Especially undercooked or raw pork is highly inadvisable, but the same goes for red meat, beef, lamb, and similar cuts. Red meat can also contain parasites, like tapeworms, just like pork, so it's also considered risky if not properly cooked. But poultry as well, chicken, turkey, quail, or really any kind of bird, can potentially carry viruses, including various respiratory viruses, which can cause health problems, gastric issues, digestive and intestinal problems. So it's very important that you always eat meat that is actually cooked. Especially in the case of red meat, many people have the habit of eating that red meat with a lot of myoglobin, which looks like blood. That very red meat, if you're in a high-risk group, has a higher chance of causing some kind of health issue for you. It's something to be cautious about, especially if you're already dealing with certain conditions or trying to prevent them. As for fish, if it's extremely fresh, from a reliable source, and it has been cleaned, scaled, and gutted in a hygienic place, theoretically there's no problem. But once again, if you already have a health issue or a weakened immune system, you need to be 3 times as careful and avoid eating raw animal products because they are indeed a major source of contamination by viruses, bacteria, and even parasites. Remember that I even have a video here on the channel talking more about the symptoms of worms. I'll leave it down below in the description because if you have the habit of eating a lot of rare meat or chicken that's sometimes a bit undercooked, a lot of fish in places that aren't necessarily Japanese restaurants, specifically. At buffet-style restaurants where you don't even know if things are running properly, you're not sure about the hygiene, people use the same tongs for everything. Be careful. Watch the video about the symptoms of worms because it's really interesting. Be careful with raw mushrooms as well because mushrooms can be highly toxic to humans. Some may lead to gastrointestinal toxicity, while others can cause neurological damage and in some extreme cases may even be fatal. So, for the vast majority of mushrooms, the ideal is that you cook them before eating, even for reasons of palatability, since raw mushrooms are very spongy. I've never eaten raw mushrooms, but you can see when you cut a fresh mushroom, it's very spongy. So ideally, you should never eat them raw to minimize the risk of toxicity, and especially, you should never pick a mushroom you find in the garden or along the way and just eat it. You should always have a specialist look at mushrooms to confirm whether they are safe for people to eat or not, because sometimes mushrooms can look very similar to each other. It might look like an edible mushroom, but could actually be toxic. So the best thing is to always buy mushrooms at the supermarket, packaged, and specifically cultivated for this purpose, an edible mushroom, and always cook the mushroom before eating it. Be careful also with eating raw beans in your daily life. Of course, no one is going to grab a spoonful of raw beans and try to eat it because you'd break your teeth first. It's just not possible. But some people have been trying to make different types of flour to add to their daily routine as a substitute for wheat flour, and they wonder if bean flour might be a good option. And many people specifically think about white bean flour because they think of the supplement phaseolamin, which acts as a blocker for some of the carbohydrates we consume daily. Remember that the phaseolamin supplement is extracted from white bean extract, but it is not simply pure white beans ground up in a food processor for you to consume. That's because raw beans can be very harmful due to the large amount of lectin they contain. In addition, they can be toxic to our bodies. For some people, they can cause gastrointestinal issues and other problems that can even be fatal. So, avoid consuming raw bean flour as much as possible. Do not eat raw beans under any circumstances. And always remember that dietary supplements are based on a food, but they are not just that food alone. So that's another important point for you to keep in mind. I was just wondering whether I said lectin or lecithin, which is present in raw beans. But what is actually present in raw beans is lectin. I'm not sure what I said, but if I said lecithin, that was a mistake. Just so you know. Another thing we should always avoid consuming raw is milk, unpasteurized, unboiled, and unheated milk. That's because milk that comes straight from the cow, raw, can also contain many bacteria, it can contain viruses, and it can really cause a lot of problems for people, especially for children and, once again, for people with weakened immune systems, such as the elderly, pregnant women, or immunocompromised individuals who consume raw milk. But in any case, in general, we never recommend the consumption of raw milk for anyone. There will always be people who think there's no problem with consuming it because our grandparents used to drink raw milk. The recommendation is that it should not be consumed. Of course, if you are able to get milk directly from a cow and drink that milk from your own farm or ranch, that can be a good thing, but always boil the milk before consuming it to prevent it from containing any kind of pathogen that could harm you. And finally, another food you should be careful with, especially if you have any health conditions, a weakened immune system, are elderly, a child, or pregnant, is sprouted seeds grown at home or bought at the supermarket. This is because many sprouts, if not germinated properly, can contain bacteria that were inside the seed, which can contaminate the sprout itself, or sometimes poor cleaning of the sprout can bring along worms, viruses, bacteria, pathogenic agents. So obviously, whenever you are going to consume a sprout, it is very important that you properly and thoroughly clean it, washing it under running water, soaking it in sodium hypochlorite, soaking it in sodium bicarbonate, so that you don't have any problems related to this. And if you, once again, have any associated health condition, usually sprouts are not recommended because they can indeed pose a significant risk of food contamination. In this video, I specifically talked about food safety so that you don't eat these foods raw. But I have another very interesting video here where I talk more about foods that you can even eat raw but are actually healthier when you cook them. They will bring you more benefits after being cooked. I'll leave it down here in the description for you as well. So tell me down below if you have the habit, or used to have it and won't anymore, of eating any of these raw foods I mentioned here, and whether you're going to change that or not. Or if you used to eat them raw but are still going to take the risk anyway. Which of these foods on the list can you not give up eating raw? I'd love to see your comment. Like the video, because that helps me a lot. Share it with anyone who'll enjoy it, with those who need it. Let's grow this chain of good together, because that's what I want here on the channel. See you next time. Bye.